We named them Checkpoint 20 and 21. They were kind of mutually supporting overpasses on Route Tampa, Highway 1 in Baghdad or in Iraq. And the purpose of putting those checkpoints in was to basically keep an eye on ID emplacements. Let's keep this route clear. This is the main supply route in all of Iraq. Let's interdict these IED operations that the enemy's been doing. So I remember being on the checkpoint and we were building it up, putting, sandbags, fighting to pit positions, just kind of beefing up our defenses there. And we get to that night and I'm laying in the guard shack on top of the overpass and I feel a truck go underneath and I feel the whole underpass kind of shake. I got up. I was like, nope, not doing this. This is a bad idea. So I went out and slept on a truck back on the hardball where the road met the rubber there. And I remember talking to them the next day saying, this is a bad idea. Like we literally, the enemy can go right underneath you. This is probably not a good idea.
The bad idea is having stuff right on top of the overpass?
Yes.
Okay.
So highway is right underneath us. And the enemy's not dumb. They will look for any weakness that you've got. And I confirmed with some guys, and we're pretty sure it was the third ID that ended up relieving us on those checkpoints. And they have Bradleys, but they took over that position for us. Well, the enemy decided that they were going to drive a dump truck under there filled with homemade explosives. Blew that underpass to the moon. I mean, I can look up some of the statistics where I know at least 3 died and I think 6 injured. They were buried under the rubble. I mean, I remember being in the chow hall whenever they came and told us, like, hey, we need QRF spun up right now. So we hit the gate within 5 to 10 minutes and we were out. So we were from eating dinner to rolling out the gate and flying up Route Tampa to try to get to them. And that was another complex attack issue where they tried to shoot them, but those Bradleys mowed them down. By the time we got there, the firefight had stopped, but the recovery operation started. And that one always stuck with me. It was just a dumb tactical decision to put yourself up over someplace that is an easy target to hit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to be like the armchair strategist here, but yeah, I mean, you're describing you've got U.S. Army assets on an overpass that Iraqi vehicles can go underneath, and by this time we've got plenty of experience with IDs, with VBIDs, etc. I mean,
VBIDs especially, yeah.
Yeah, that just in my mind just goes into the category of obvious bad idea.
Yes. And like I said, it took me laying there for 5 minutes to feel the rumble of a vehicle underneath of me to be like, this is a terrible idea. And that always stuck with me is like, okay, you can't control the bad idea that military leadership is going to have. All you can do is try to make the best of the situation that you're put in.
What's the rationale for having the stuff on the overpass? I mean, presumably there's some place on either side of it.
It was a better sight line to see down. It was a better sight line to see down the route. So well, let's put that like right in the median, in between the 2 different sections. We'll put that right there. You can have a great view between checkpoint 20 and 21 and south. We can make sure that no IDs are put in place for miles. So that gives us a 5 to 8 mile section that we know we're safe with no IEDs are going to be put in there. And that's all it takes is just simple thought processes of that. Like, hey, we know we have 8 miles of section that are going to be secure. That the bodies don't matter. It matters the route.
Yeah, but then the 20-year-old is saying, well, it's true. I mean, yeah, we've got that, but we've also got vehicles going right underneath this thing that could blow up on us. That's got to be really frustrating, and you see this so much. You talk to Vietnam vets, Iraq, Afghanistan vets, like the 20-year-olds on the ground, they know what's going on, and this is a bad idea. And that's got to be incredibly frustrating. You're doing patrols, mounted patrols, dismounted patrols. what are you doing specifically? What is your specific job?
At this point, I was I think around maybe May, June, I got converted from a gun team leader to an actual team leader in second squad, Charlie Company, third platoon. So I had a gun team with me. So I'd have a saw gunner, a rifleman, and a grenadier. We started operating north of Diara, and we came across this bridge. So they'd shoot a random mortar at us and stuff like that down in the town, but typically it was a safe town. But we found this bridge that they were utilizing to cross over from the north side to get close enough to shoot at us with mortars, and they would use that bridge to get out of there. So we started patrolling that area, and we were like, oh, let's kind of check this area out. And while my buddy Bickle and the platoon leader were taking a walk along this route, the platoon leader actually stepped on a pressure plate, and the IED popped, but it didn't ignite the entire IED. So it just hit the blasting cap. Didn't ignite the rest of the IED and explode. And that was like, oh snap! These guys are rigging this entire area. They're boxing us in, and that's whenever that became a focus around that time period in the summer there, and that became one of those things where like, okay, well let's interdict the enemy. Let's get up here and try to make their lives more difficult. And that was the great thing about Iraq in general, is that it was more of a positive. Let's go after them. Let's make their lives. Let's put them at danger. Fear in war is a very valuable tool. If you can make them fearful that, hey, are they over there? Are they going to be coming around? Are they going to kick my door in the middle of the night? It makes you very wary. It makes you make mistakes. It makes you cautious of your movements and not as bold to go after them. And that's what we put them in Iraq. We really went after them. Well, we decided we're going to go blow up that bridge. Well, that day they did not want us to blow that bridge up. And I remember we were crossing a field, and I remember I saw the RPK rounds come flying down through the field, and I'm in there with the gun team, and we just sprint to this house. We take down this house, get up to the roof, and we're trying to lay eyes on them. And at the same time, God bless the Kiowas. The Kiowa pilots that we had in Iraq were amazing. There was nobody better. Those guys would extinguish all their rounds, keep doing gun runs and firing their M4s or M9s out the window at any enemy they saw. They would not leave the target until you either got them or they did. Some of the best pilots I've ever seen. And they are those little birds with not much protection. They're not Apaches with the extra armament. They were windows and doors open. That was it. And that day, those Kiowa operators were on it for us. And we were able to push them back. I think they took out a car or two, and we ended up blowing the bridge. But we had another platoon coming out to meet us, and they followed the bad road. And we had one of the guys that was formerly in our platoon step on another pressure plate that went off on him, peppered him real good. He survived. I think he served the full 20 and got out. He's a government contractor now. But I remember I was up on the roof watching the medevac as they were pulling it off, and he had his helmet on and his boots. That was it. He's just hanging brain, walking to the plane, and apparently there was a female medic that was on there just laughing as he walked up, just jumped on the bird, and they medevaced him out of there. But that was probably the most significant event that happened during that point. And he, like I said, he continued on his service, and he was a Ranger. He was a real strong guy. But that was probably the most significant event that happened until I guess April, going back in time a little bit, was whenever Lindsay died. Lindsay was our field forward observer. Him and his RTO were attached to me on the weapons squad. Well, before we left, I don't know if you know what the Raven was, but it was it looked like the same foam airplane that you would throw as a kid. They put a little motor and a camera on it, and they named it the Raven. So it was a UAV that we used, and my squad leader was the only one that was trained on it, and they sent one out to us at Patrol Base Diara. We never used it. We were kind of like leery of it. Well, they were like, we want you to put this up and use it. We gave it to you for a reason. Go use it. As soon as he launched it, it must have locked on to some other array that pulled it towards it. So that UAV just disappeared. It started tracking north and then disappeared. So we lost it. They did not like the fact that we lost a sensitive item. Probably dollars of material that were gone. And you could create it in your garage if we really wanted to. Well, they sent us out to go find it. And for the next 6 or 7 hours, we just drove around these roads that we hadn't been on these canal roads that were in bad territory that we would have scouted before we started rolling through. And every time we said, we can't find this thing. This is the last known location that we had it in. It's nowhere around. Keep looking, keep looking, keep looking. And eventually he rolled over. He was the lead vehicle. My buddy was in the truck, Winkler. He was the other gun team leader with me. They hit that ID and it was catastrophic. I remember it happening and just the smell in the air whenever an IED hits, you know it's bad if it's got that iron smell to it too, because it's blood. And I could smell it all the way in the back. And so we went into the whole mass casualty situation. Everybody in the truck was messed up, but I think we medevaced 2 people and his body. And eventually, I got tired of being sitting back there and not doing anything. I was like, hey, somebody relieve me on there. I want to go help. So somebody came back. They'd had enough. So they jumped on my gun and I ran up there and Doc was just beside himself. We still had injured guys. We still had guys with concussions. But I'll tell you what, one of the best docs I ever had in the Army was Jameson. And he just hit his moment. And I went up and consoled him. I was just like, man, we need you for a little bit longer. Get back in the game. And to his credit, he jumped right back in. And I was super proud of him for that day. But they threw a body bag at them. And they were like, hey, we need to get the rest of the pieces. And I was like, I got it. Nobody else needs to be dealing with this right now. And so I was going down the road, picking up pieces of chunks of human flesh and throwing it in this little body bag. And I mean, like I said, you can see the pictures of the devastation of that hit. And it was one of those things that sticks with you after the fact. And like I said, I can smell the iron. I can smell the scent of that IED strike. And it's hard to relay that to people that was something that I did. I was really proud of how everybody reacted that day. And I remember going back. So nobody at the patrol base, they knew we had a KAI. They did not know who. And so we took all the trucks back. We had to drop that truck off we had to drag that thing basically all the way out to MSR Tampa, get it on a flatbed, and then we took it back down to Calsu, and then we were like, we're going to go back to DR in the morning. Once first light hits, we'll get back out there. We went out there, and we told everybody, and I said, I already did the dirty part and collected his body parts. So I went and collected all his gear from the room while everybody was dealing with that. And I just didn't want anybody else have to deal with it. They'd already been through so much. And I had avoided the mass casualty situation in Baghdad. They already had enough burden. I didn't want them to take on more of that burden. So that's why I kind of just took that off their plate.
So your decision to kind of take the lead on that, was that related to, as you look back, it's probably not a conscious thing at the time, but as you look back on it, was that related to not being there when Murphy, Ford, and Gibson were hit?
100%. I know. It probably was in the back of my mind even then, but I know absolutely those guys had to go through so much with those 3, and it was brutal. Seeing the doc, our rock, have that meltdown, they needed a break, and I had to take that mental load on because they had already dealt with so much. I mean, I know 100% I did that to help. Like, I just wanted to not have them be any more traumatized.
This will be a question that might be impossible to answer. How would you describe your mental state as you're doing that? Is it just a matter of just kind of, in a sense, just kind of
Block,
turning off your brain?
yeah, block it out. Yeah, block it out. I knew what I was doing. Obviously, you're in the moment. You're like, this is crazy. This is not a normal human activity. But it was also one of those things like, knock this out, get it off the road, kick the dirt around, make it seem like nothing's bad for the rest of them. But yes, in my mind, I'm like, this is not a normal human activity, and it's nothing to be proud of. It's a very sad moment when you look back and you're like, he was a great guy. He had a wife. I mean,
Last question on this, and I'm not asking this because I want to, dig into a gruesome story. Um, in that moment, was it really important to you to make sure that nothing was left behind, to get everything into the bag?
oh yeah, yeah. I I comb that area probably more than some others would. And that comes back to your mentality of, they are my enemy, and things change on how you see enemies over 15, 20 years. I'm sure Vietnam vets feel different about the people they fought now than they did back then. But at that point, these motherfuckers aren't going to see any of this. They're not going to have anything to be proud of that they did today. That's why I wasn't going to leave a piece of him in another country. I did not want a piece of him to be there.
Yeah.
All of his body was leaving at the same time.